No, I was. All right, we've got a few more folks coming in, but I'd like to get started. My name is Amy Bach, and I am one of the two people who founded United Policyholders in 1991, right around the time of the Oakland-Berkeley fire. And I've been helping run the organization ever since. How many of you went to one of the two workshops that we did for prior? Okay, so you won't have to sit through a whole lot of repetitive material. We're going to do a very kind of quick run through. I'm not going to go into the basic sort of philosophy that we put out there, but just to summarize and say that the goal of the workshop that you're at, this is part of our Roadmap to Recovery program, is to give you information and guidance in order to get through this process of figuring out what needs to be done to restore your house to its pre-loss condition, smoke ash and extreme heat damage, how to figure out what work has to be done, who should do the work, how much should the work cost, and getting your insurance company to agree and pay for it. In addition to, if those of you who are out of your houses, your additional living expense. So in our, I first want to give you my condolences and tell you that I know that you're in a very difficult situation. You know, you don't have the full empathy, you know, that somebody who loses their home has, but your situation is just as awful, and for some people it's even more complicated in a sense because of the subjectivity involved in your situation, and also the fact that good experts in this space are in short supply. So anyway, welcome to the Roadmap to Recovery workshop, and we're going to be talking about the things I've already gone over, and also just navigating the insurance claim process to restore your paradise home to its pre-wildfire condition to the extent that that is possible. I have a few thank yous. I want to thank Professor Maitreya Badami, who's back there. She came forward and volunteered with us. She's a professor here at Chico State and has a big heart and strong arms, helping carry our stuff around. So, and I want to also thank the students that were helping us with the sign-in, and then the Community Legal Information Center, which is a program here at Chico State that helps students get involved in giving useful information to the community. And we're sort of tag teaming with them to serve you. I also want to thank Butte County Supervisor Doug Teeter, who's here, who also lost his home. Doug, did you want to say a few words? Or? Yeah, please. Okay, come on up.
Pardon me, sir. Well, welcome. It's been a pleasure to attend every meeting that United Policyholders has held up here, and then they got a great resource with a website and Facebook. I think part of the problem, I lost my home, and I actually think that people with partial loss might have it a lot worse. So I'm glad to see a lot of you here tonight. The difficulty I have is, you know, it's easy to communicate on social media, but a lot of our residents might not have been on social media. So if you see your neighbors, please pass along the information you receive, whether it's from the county regarding debris removal or, you know, information that United Policyholders provides you. How many people have been to one of the debris removal meetings? Okay, how many people have like a structure that qualifies 120 square feet or greater? And so I'm available. I'll be here till the end. If you have debris removal questions, please feel free. I may not know all the answers, but I definitely want to get that information to you because we really need to get Paradise and the other unincorporated Butte County areas cleaned up so we can move forward. And I just want to add, there's two means to getting debris that qualify cleaned up, whether it's the state program or what they call the alternative, where people can hire a contractor to do the work. The other one is called the abatement method, and it's the most expensive method. And what's important to you is there may be some people that have left that we can't contact, or they choose not to make a decision. And that's why we have the deadline so quick. Amy wanted me to explain that last night, and I felt being that you're living there, it's super critical to get these debris cleaned up from around your homes so you feel safe to live there. So anyway, thank you for coming, and thanks, Amy, for always letting me say a few words.
Appreciate it. Okay, and then we also have another special guest with us, Joel Loucher, who is a Deputy Commissioner for the California Department of Insurance. And Joel made the trip up here, as we did, from the Bay Area to be of service to you and to give you information. And yeah, sure, let's give him a hand. Why not? It's good. Appreciation is a good thing. We also want to thank the rural county representatives of California that provided some grant funding for us to be here. Next slide. Thanks. And before I get into a little bit more explanation of what United Policyholders is and why you should feel comfortable with trusting the information we're going to give you, I want to remind you that we did start a little after 6 tonight, but we do need to try to wrap up promptly at 8 tonight. And so we're going to do our best to give you an hour of content and then at least 45 minutes for questions, because we do have to drive back tonight, and so we got to be safe. Okay, so UP, we say not for profit, not for sale. We're a nonprofit like the United Way or the Red Cross, not as big as either of those, but we exist to be of service to consumers, and so we do education and advocacy. Our special area of expertise is insurance and disaster recovery, and we've been in this space since 1991. So we worked a lot of wildfires. I've stood in front of a lot of rooms of people who walked in the shoes you're now wearing, and you know, again, I can only tell you, you're gonna get through it. And you're still, you know, you're still in the real tricky part, and it may feel overwhelming, but it's amazing to see already the progress that is now going on to the south in Sonoma with the rebuilding, and there's definitely green where there's black and brown now in your future. So we do partner a lot with other nonprofits, and we partner with government agencies like the Department of Insurance, you know, the FEMA and the SBA. We're not able to send a rep tonight, but they did ask me to remind all of you that no matter what you think you may want to do, it's always good to register for a FEMA number, and that way, and the deadline is January 31st, and the reason why is if you, particularly for y'all, if you end up wanting to take out an SBA loan to pay for the repairs, if you have problems with your insurance, you just want to have that number, and they do have that deadline. They said, we're not allowed to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, that there's a little bit of leeway, but there's no reason not to do it. Just get that paperwork in and get it in by the end of this month.
I heard that the government shut down FEMA.
Well, they didn't.
Okay.
So, and we were just over at the DRC today, the assistance center, and there were lots and lots of FEMA people there. So if you still...
Yeah, let me just jump in. Our representative has spoken to representatives from the administration and spoke to the long-term recovery group and said, that information is not true. FEMA is operating. FEMA is going to operate.
Right.
So.
And there were a lot of FEMA reps there just this afternoon. So I can attest to that. Okay, our website, uphelp.org, is a resource for you any time of day or night. And we do have a special library for the camp wildfire that we have curated. Okay, we are a trusted information resource, a respected voice for insurance consumers in all 50 states. We're a source of disaster recovery guidance. We're funded by donations and grants. We run 3 programs. The one that I'm here under today is this Roadmap to Recovery. The Roadmap to Preparedness program is one where we help people make good decisions about their insurance in advance, or if you're having trouble replacing your insurance, we have some resources for that as well. We have something called the Matchup Insurance Finder tool. If you've been dropped by your insurance company and you don't have the protection that a total loss survivor has, you can try our tool to replace that coverage as a way of finding a company that would be willing to insure you. Okay, and then through the Advocacy and Action program, we do things like help get laws passed that make it easier for people in your situation after they've had a loss. Okay, we've already kind of gone through this. This workshop is intended to be general guidance only, not legal advice. And if you go to our website and you go to our Find Help directory and you see one of the, there's law firms, there are some construction professionals. If you see one of those, we're not saying, always say those guys support us and they're in this business, but we're not endorsing them or saying, oh yeah, you should hire, you know, this specific person or that. So when we have people speak at our workshops, they're volunteering their time. Okay, so smoke, ash, and extreme heat damage and estimating restoration costs. Restoring your home as close as possible to its pre-wildfire condition requires having it inspected by professionals that know what they're doing. Remediated, which is, you probably already know now, this fancy word, which basically means fixed, or restored, repaired, replaced. You want, of course, the cost to be covered by your insurance company. You want to know that the air quality inside your home is safe, and you want your stuff to either have been cleaned if it could be cleaned or replaced if it couldn't. All right, and you know, one of the trickiest pieces here is the indoor air quality, and then some of the damage that you might not be able to see with the naked eye. Okay, so who can do a thorough inspection and who can you trust to do proper cleaning? Well, qualified inspectors, testers, reputable labs, well-documented reports. What are soft goods? Again, you may already know this lingo by now. Your soft goods are your furniture, upholstery, your clothing, pillows, blankets, sheets. And why they're called soft goods is because they're porous surfaces. They can absorb smoke, right? They can, and so those items are usually, and rugs are usually the things that you're going to want to pay the most attention to in terms of, like, you know, can you ever get the smell out? I know, or does it need to be tossed? So this cleaning versus replacing is a very common source of conflict between homeowners whose homes have been damaged in a wildfire and their insurance companies, and also the vendors that the insurance companies will bring in. Very often people will say, oh geez, they took all of our clothing and our towels and our bedding. They took it out for cleaning and then they brought it all back and I can still smell the smoke, and yet this cleaning company has presented us with this giant bill. Very common situation. There are plenty of cleaning companies that will do it right, and so it's always, the trick is to find one of those. Okay, next. What are the hot spots? And by that I mean those sources of conflict that can come up. Overworked and undertrained adjusters who sometimes will speak as if they have authority that they don't have, that will say, oh, they'll give a sort of a scientific opinion that they really have no professional qualifications to offer. Total losses are definitely a higher priority. You probably already are feeling that. Although I can tell you that having done a total loss workshop last night, there's plenty of people who feel like that they'd like to have things move a little faster as well. But that's just a reality. And then you don't find what you don't want to find. Again, it's your property, it's your assets. So of course, you have the biggest stake in making sure that they are restored. And so, sitting back and waiting for the insurance adjuster to tell you everything, what's been damaged and what they're going to pay is not the approach we recommend. And obviously, I think a lot of you agree that's why you're here. So the approach we recommend is to really form your own opinions based on expertise that you can find about what does need to be done to get your dwelling back to the value that it had before, the safety that it had before, and those are kind of the two main things. So obviously, one of the biggest challenges for all of you is how much are you going to spend to get that peace of mind, to know what's the right fix for your house, and that is challenging. Again, when you buy insurance, you have bought both coverage, the dollars that flow when you file a claim, and you've also paid for good claim service. So, and there's lots of laws in California that give you the right to get what you paid for, to get the benefits paid and to get the good claim service. But the reality is we've had a lot of wildfires in California. Yours was the biggest ever, obviously. And so there are a lot of processes are strained, right? So, it is, again, I would say that if it's a debate over whether you spend some money to pay an expert versus wait for your insurance company to turn around and give you an expert that is better maybe than the first one that they sent, those are decisions that you want to make. Time is money, and I know it's easy to for me to stand up here and say spend the money to pay, but and if you can't, you can't. But I would say generally, because it's your home and it is for most people your most valuable asset, if you are feeling uncomfortable with the opinion that the insurance adjuster has given you or that an expert they've brought out has given you, it's generally well worth finding the money to pay for an independent expert. And we do, in our library, on our website, have we have a sample section, and we have sample reports where you can see what an indoor air quality report prepared by a professional hygienist could look like, and that sort of thing. So again, that's just another one of these decisions that you face. What are some of these common disputes? The line of sight, meaning, I'm standing in one room and let's say the insurance company says, okay, we're going to pay to replace all the carpeting in this room, but because we can't see the carpeting in the next room, we're not going to replace that carpeting. Well, that means you're going to have two different kinds of carpeting, which devalues a real estate asset. So, just because the insurance company says, well, we're not going to pay for that, that doesn't mean you have to accept that. You can push back and say, no, that's not going to restore the house to the condition it was. Like, kind, and quality, that's where, if you had wool carpeting and the insurer is only offering to pay for, a synthetic, that would be a dispute over like, kind, and quality. Matching, I already talked about that with carpeting. Clean versus replace, where you say there's no way the smoke smell is gonna leave this couch. The couch has got to go. That's a clean versus replace dispute. And then who's going to pay for the experts in the testing? Obviously, you want the insurance company to pay, and so and to the extent that that you can get them to, and if you need help from the Department of Insurance getting your insurer to pay for proper testing, then, that is your right. I mean, you do, as a policyholder, as a person who's bought insurance, you do have the right to be treated fairly and to have your insurance company do a thorough investigation, and of course to treat you fairly and pay your claim fairly. Allegations of overreaching and pre-existing, again, this is a common dispute. You'll get the insurance adjuster will say, come on, synthetic carpeting off gases and stuff. If you had tested the air in this place before the fire, you would have found particulates, that kind of thing. Or the insurance company will say, well, this person's just trying to get a new house built on our dime. That's ridiculous, right? So again, those are kind of, that's just those are the spots where people can get into problems. Hidden damage, smoke, ash, particulates, tiny little things you can't see, the air quality, your ducts, is there ash inside of the ducts for the heater, the air conditioning, attics and crawl spaces. Often, sometimes adjusters, they're in a hurry and they don't inspect them and they leave them off of their estimate for the repairs. You've got to make sure that the estimates are complete. It's your asset. Insulation, which can soak up, obviously, smoke and airborne particles. Underlayments, sheathing, subfloors, and then of course, if you're not in your house and there is water coming in, from damage, that's very, very important to get properly fixed. So yeah, it's a difficult dynamic that you all face because you're genuinely concerned, about the adverse health effects of the substances that are floating around, but each home and family is impacted differently. Very common for people to be sitting where you guys are sitting and say, well, I have asthma, or my kid has asthma, and we're particularly susceptible. And so again, everyone wants to feel safe in their own home. That's a very, fair, legitimate feeling to have. And so the big issue is, how do you get there, right? When we were at the assistance center today, and I was trying to figure out whether the county has the resources to help people be assured that their indoor air quality is okay. They don't. Okay, and that is not the county's fault. That's just it's just not something that tax dollars have been allocated to cover. So it is something that kind of does fall back on the homeowner. And obviously the EPA has been in for phase 1, doing the really important testing for toxic substances, and that part you don't have to worry about. So it's really just a matter of getting to that comfort level in your own home. So how do insurers generally approach standing home or partial losses? It's not really uniform, but we do see patterns. There has been some, I've been in communities where there have been wildfires where a group of people felt that their adjusters were downplaying the risks, and so those folks did get together and hire some experts together, which was a cost saving. So that's something. And I think in some of those cases, their fears were calmed and everything was fine. And in other cases, you can learn that there is some more work that needs to be done. Of course, insurance companies, they're for-profit businesses. They're not in the business of giving away money that they don't feel they owe. And they do, they do use procedures that are designed to screen people's claims carefully to avoid paying more than they think that they have to owe. And these wildfire smoke claims have been an area where there's been a lot of litigation. There's been, a lot of, have any of you already been solicited by law firms to, okay. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of lawsuits filed on behalf of partial loss, standing loss folks related to how insurers handle smoke claims, that they, give them too low priority and they're too casual, and here's a bottle of bleach. But like everything else in life, there's some truth on both sides. Some people have overreached, and some people have been harmed by relying on an adjuster saying everything was hunky-dory when it wasn't. So it's like everything else, you got to try to find the facts as best you can. So making your case that your insurer should pay for the experts that you need, you make those requests in writing, you make them in short letters. One of the least effective things you can do is send your insurance company 3-page single-spaced letters full of emotion. That is almost never going to help. That's almost always going to label you as somebody they would like to not deal with, and you don't want that, right? So very short, to the point. This is my question. Please give me an answer within 2 weeks. Is a perfectly legitimate way to go. And at our website, we give sample letters, and on our letters will cue you to the tone that we recommend. And I don't think any of our recommended sample letters are more than 4 paragraphs. Go up the chain of command, which is to say that most of the adjusters that are working on your claims have very little dollar authority to make decisions on their own. They usually only have a couple thousand or maybe even $5,000 in authority, and in order to pay anything more than that, they've got to go to their boss. So very often, the person who's making the decisions is really not that adjuster, it's their boss. So trying to go up above your line adjuster often will be very helpful. And then backing up your requests with documentation, of course, is the most empowering thing that you can do. But that requires often spending a little money to get the documentation. If you feel like, again, you just don't trust the experts that the insurer sent, or the insurer said you don't need any experts. Okay, so when and how to use experts and restoration contractors. I'm going to turn the microphone that doesn't exist over to my colleague, Sandy Watts.
There's one slide that got missed.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
There's 2 before this one.
Oh, get a thorough,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
one more. There. Okay. Oh yeah, getting a thorough inspection and a complete report and estimate. What is included in a thorough inspection, and what kind of report should I receive? The answer to that is, well, of course, it depends on what happened to your house, but in general, it's going to include a list of items that we're going to go into later, but it's basically a complete inspection of the house. Attics, crawl spaces, basements, like I already said, ducts, chimneys, over things. What are examples of commonly missed, overlooked, inappropriately minimized, or overlooked damage? Again, it's the things that take a little extra effort to find. So, inside of a duct, or or down in a crawl space. And that's where you just have to, if the insurance company sends somebody out, you go around with them. You meet them there, and you go around and you make sure, if you feel like it's safe to go in your house, and you make sure that they are being thorough.
Do you have samples of the kind of things that we should make sure that all of these things are being covered? Because for those of us, this is our first rodeo.
Right.
We don't know what to look for and what.
Right.
We don't know what we don't know.
Let's get through the slides,
Okay.
and then if we haven't answered that question in the slides, we'll do our best to answer it. Okay, so Sandy Watts is going to jump in here. And Sandy has put in a couple decades as an insurance claim adjuster, and then joined our team last year, and so has a lot of real life perspective on this topic.
So hi everyone, I'm Sandy. So I skipped that slide because we were going to go into it in more detail. So it's good to kind of get it a couple times. So these cases, these partial losses, and everybody's going to be sort of on a spectrum as to, you know, lesser damage and more damage, and so where you fall on there. And also there's a spectrum of sensitivity, you know, to smoke. So I've talked to people who are like, you know, I can't go near any smoke, to people who are like, and this is nothing, and you know, I walk in and it's very smoky. So people have different tolerances, and that's just, you know, that's because we're all people. So you kind of have to weigh, you know, your tolerance and, you know, what's sort of reasonable within those boundaries. So what we're finding on these partial losses is this is kind of a list of the most commonly used experts can never, oh, everybody can see over there, that, you know, that we think will be helpful to you guys. Industrial hygienists, we put them at the top of the list. Have you guys all heard, you all know what an industrial hygienist does? Has any, okay, so okay.
Can't find any, we've tried.
So did you go to the Butte County website and look
Yes,
at their
we did,
list?
And all the ones that we called, they said that they work for the insurance companies, not the consumers.
Companies. So the industrial
Yes, they did.
hygienists are the people who come in and test, okay? So they're the people, they're scientists who come in and they test things like indoor air quality. They run it through filters. They do swab wipes of surfaces, which is super important because, you know, the smoke settles on things. And they'll test, you know, your attic and your basement and see, really, they can tell really thoroughly how much smoke and what it's sort of made up of, you know, whether, because certain things burn and they put out certain pollutants or particles, you know, that are different things, plastics, and it depends on what was around your house. So not everybody's going to get the same industrial hygienist report as somebody down the road, just based on how the wind blew and how, you know, what burned around them. So those hygienists, all they do, we're going to do questions at the end. All these hygienists, basically what they are is they're like, what's in your house? What? And we've seen pushback on adjusters paying for these. And, you know, I had a flippant comment by one adjuster saying, well, we don't insure the air, you know, which, yeah, is true. However, I said, but you do insure the walls and the floors and the ceilings and the contents, which of course the smoke settled on. So in a few cases, hopefully your adjusters will, if you push them, agree to pay for an industrial hygienist. If not, I think personally it's worth paying. They're kind of expensive, $1,200 depending on how big the house is, but you can use that information to go back and get a proper cleaning thing. So what they do is they test it and then they say, based upon the results of this test, here's what we suggest as a cleaning protocol for the restoration companies to come in. So it's really important to kind of know what you're dealing with. People who are really, really sensitive, have allergies, asthma, things like that, should make an argument for post-remediation testing, especially if the insurer's restoration company is doing the work, okay? If they send in their preferred contractor and say, we're taking care of this for you, we'll talk a little bit about that. It's not necessarily bad, it's not necessarily good. You can kind of, it's all over the board. But if they send somebody in, especially those people, it's good to get a post-clearance test, air quality test, just to see that they did all their work. There's people, so let's talk about the restoration companies. Number one thing to remember about restoration companies, 99% of them are franchises. Okay, so you hear ServPro, Service Master, Restoration, Contract Management, you know, all these big rainbow, these companies are individually owned and operated, almost all of them. So if you see a ServPro that you hate, go to another one because it's going to be a different franchisee. And it's like your adjusters. Each one of them has a different training and certifications and quality. Really important to have people. It's called the IICRC. It's the inspection, something I should know, but, and cleaning and restoration. Yeah, inspection, something in cleaning and restoration. So IICRC, those are certifications, and they should have somebody on your site who is a fire and smoke certified smoke remediator, because it's not the same as doing water damage. Lots of people are certified in water damage, but not as many in smoke and fire, and it makes a difference because there's ways to clean these based upon what type of smoke you have. So really, and so interview them, make sure you're comfortable with the restoration company, whether you bring them in yourself or your insurer, and if you don't like them, get a second opinion. There are companies that do electronics checking, depending on the amount of smoke in your house. You know, some of the electronics will be affected, especially kind of down the road. The smoke corrodes fine metals, so some of that is bad. Artwork, there's companies. Appliances, I've heard a lot of talk about my insurer's paying for my refrigerator, my insurer's not paying for my refrigerator. I think almost all of you should get a new refrigerator, because even if the smoke wasn't so bad, you had an unoccupied house for 2 weeks with all the stuff trapped inside, no power. You ask them if they can get the stink out of that, okay? There's just no... I heard a story of somebody who had the refrigerator, they had smoke and they had, you know, and he said no, and she said, well, open it up and smell it, and he wouldn't do it. You know, it's like, oh, okay, if you won't even stick your nose inside there, what do you think you do? That plastic is really, I mean, you guys all know that plastic's really absorbent, that you just can't get it out. Mechanical systems, I've seen a lot up there, like on houses that are saved, where your heat pump is outside. And a lot of the houses I've seen, the fire, you know, went right up to the house and stopped. And I've seen a lot of heat pumps. So think about those. HVAC and ductwork. If your heater was on or your fan was on, any smoke that came inside your house got recirculated through your ductwork. So you need to have those cleaned by a company that does that, and your insurance company should pay for that. Amy talked a little bit about porous items, so carpets, soft goods, furnishings. If you have heavy smoke, you know, there is a difference. A lot of things, jeans and stuff, you can wash fine, it's gonna be fine. Things that you can't wash, that you'd normally send to a dry cleaner, and she talked about things coming back still smoky. That happens. You really, if you have really smoky stuff that needs to be dry cleaned, you need to get one of the fabric restoration companies, because they take steps. They put them in chambers, and they, you know, they deodorize them in the chambers, and they actually have things that grab the smoke. There's electrons, you know, and they grab the smoke and take it out. So they can actually get the smoke out. Costs a lot, but your insurance company should also pay for that. Carpet is just a judgment call whether they can get that out. Roof, windows, siding. Windows, some of the things I've seen, the heat will melt if you have vinyl clad windows. I've seen the vinyl discolored and sort of melted from the heat. That means your windows need to be replaced. If you have aluminum windows, look on them, like clean them off, and they get pitted. The smoke has an electrical charge that reacts with aluminum, and so if they're pitted, you should have new windows. Okay. Structural engineers, if you have a situation where, like, maybe some underpinnings from your deck or things like that have burned, you want to have like a structural engineer look and make sure that everything's good. Amy? So, you know, to me, almost all of you, it just depends. Most people will be in better shape if they take the time and effort to get second opinions on all these things. The adjusters, you know, come out varying degrees of ability, varying, you know, estimates that you're going to get. To get one of these experts is going to document your claim. It's going to document what needs to be done in terms of restoration. Let me just tell you one thing that I saw, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to pick on insurance companies or anything, but Farmers has made a deal with ServiceMaster where they're bidding smoke restoration in houses sight unseen, okay, which no, square footage based on like category 1, 2, or 3 severity of the smoke. that is not, I mean, and I've talked to some farmers adjusters, they're like, well, that's sort of a starting point. It's sort of what we know we're gonna do if you get an estimate and turn it in. And it's kind of too bad because it's basically sort of like, I'm gonna flip this out at you and you come back with something else. But that's not, and that is not a valid estimate. They can't do it sight unseen. Every house is different. One of the things that I saw in the estimate was HEPA vacuuming. So HEPA is the high efficiency, particulate vacuum. And they were going to HEPA vacuum people's clothes. Okay, not an IICRC certified method of restoring clothing from smoke damage. So it's tough for me to even understand how they're agreeing to that because it's not a method for cleaning clothes. So don't accept that personally. So all these things sort of that you can get in your favor increase. And like I said, most of the adjusters I talked to, they said, send it in, we'll look at it. This is just a starting point. So know that what they send you is a starting point. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of groundwork that you have to do to support payments and get your peace of mind as well. So yes, and one of the things that I hear people say is, they're very slow to respond. Differing time limits, the insurance code, there's a fair claims settlement practices regulation that was adopted back in the late 90s that the insurance companies have to follow. There's certain timelines. You can go on our website and find it. Department of Insurance has it on there. But like, if you write to an insurer, they have 15 days to write you back, okay? 15 days. It says that, if your correspondence reasonably suggests that you want to reply, okay? And they also have 40 days from the day they have your claim, basically, to either pay it or deny it. And if they don't do it within the 40 days, they have to write you and say why they haven't finished it and what they're doing to move forward. You're going to see a lot of little pattern letters that they do like this to produce them in the office, and it just shoots out and it says, we are still working on your claim, blah, and maybe they'll type in a little, we're working on the estimate. You're entitled to know, why is this taking so long? What do you need? What do you need to make your decision? Can I give that? Can I give you something that's going to help you make your decision? You seem to be stuck, So, and when you send your estimates in, they're obligated to respond. So you have to, sending them in will move your claim along and keep it going. Lots of adjusters' estimates seem complete. A lot of times people get the estimate from the adjuster, they see it, and they just like, oh my goodness, this isn't even close to my damage. I can't do this. I can't work with this. Be calm. Know that their estimates are 99% of the time just a starting point. In a disaster like this, they're trying to sort of to comply with the regulations in getting you with what they call the undisputed amount of your claim into your hands. So if they say, okay, it's easy to know that you've lost X amount, we're just going to send you that, and then we're going to go from there. It's like a CYA for them a little bit. So know that any estimate you get and any payment, this is really important, any payment that you get, you can take the payment, you can deposit the payment, don't worry about it, and you can keep going.
Mine was rescinded.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they canceled our check.
Mine was rescinded.
They canceled your check because?
They say they have a question about a small portion of it that they need to investigate, so they rescinded the whole thing.
We'll talk about that separately. So yeah, in 99% of the cases, if you get the check and you deposit it, you're
State
fine.
Farm, everyone.
Yeah.
State Farm. And
So-
State Farm also has a contract with
Later.
Pro.
Yes, Servpro and Servpro. So it gets you going. It also, so what you have to do is you have to respond to that, and you have to say, hey, look, your estimate's inadequate. If you know what they missed, you can say, this is what I, as a homeowner, I can tell you've missed. Let them know right away and say, I'm going to be getting a contractor's estimate, and you can expect that soon. So hopefully. If the adjuster has denied coverage, sometimes an expert can say no. Now, there were some endorsements put on some policies that were like smoke limitation endorsements. And Joel and I were talking about these earlier. Some of the companies, Liberty and Farmers, I think, put on these smoke limitation endorsements. They're not really enforceable. Smoke is supposed to be the law is that insurance policies have to conform to, you know, a basic standard, and that standard includes fire and smoke. So if somebody gives you, because I talked to an adjuster and he said, oh no, this policy has this smoke limitation. We're not paying for, you know, smoke we can't see. We're only paying $500. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a legal endorsement. And he backed off right away, which kind of, you know, it's like, so you knew, you know, I hate to say that, but it happened. So, so if they say no, one of the things is, yeah, get a second opinion. Our favorite words at UP are, show me where it says that in the policy. Okay, show me where it says that in the policy. Unfortunately, if we're dealing with that smoke endorsement, they can show you. However, it's the law kind of usurps it. But that's a kind of a limited situation. And then get a second opinion. Yep. Sorry. So, whoops. I guess we don't have a handout. Sorry about that. Items that need to be inspected, swabbed, and tested. I wouldn't do the how. The industrial hygienist, that's their job to know how and kind of where, as long as you kind of have in your head what's a good thing. Most of these houses have attics and crawl spaces that I've seen with big vents because, you know, you need ventilation. And that smoke goes right through the houses and right through the attics and right through the down. And then so if you have insulation underneath the subfloor, you know, underneath your floor, that needs to be tested. So you need to make sure they get in your attics and your crawl spaces and swab the areas that are the most affected. And that's where you guys come in to help. How to find an industrial hygienist. Dubuque County has it on their website. I've heard people say that they're not working for homeowners, which it distresses me.
We'll look again.
Pardon?
We'll look again.
Yeah, look again and talk to them, and you know,
I called from UC Davis down in San Francisco.
on that list. Wow.
I found a couple in Fresno, also down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the expert, the testing, and how much it costs, it kind of varies. I've seen, mostly it's about $1,000 to do a hygienist, to have a hygienist. If you and your neighbors get together, there's certain fixed costs that they'll group together. If you like, say, arrange to have 5 houses in one day or something like that, because if they're coming, I was talking to one that was coming from Petaluma, they need to spend the night. But they'll take their trip charge and divide it between all the people, and they can just do this. And so it's an economy of scale, and it helps. So that's a good idea. You know, test results and reports, what findings matter. They'll tell you pretty much when if you get a good report, they'll tell you have these particles and this is what you should do about it. So it should be, if your insurance company sends a report and you question it, look on there, make sure that they tell you what did they find in your house? Did they find, you know, particles, soot, you know, what did they find? And did they say, you know, in order to get rid of this, here's what we recommend as our protocol for the restoration company to do. You can find an air quality report, Amy, on our website?
Yes.
Okay, good. So there's a sample in there. Look at it. It's kind of long. They should have their raw data lab report on the back so that you can see that it was sent to a certified lab, and you can see the actual data that's different than like the report that talks about the data. Go ahead. That's just, they have to maintain chain of custody. So you're going to have a pretty good idea when you, first off, I recommend there are certified industrial hygienist is a specific person. It's a specific set of certifications and training. I recommend, if you can, get somebody like that. There's some other people that have different certifications, and some of them are fine, but for your peace of, and they're cheaper, but for your peace of mind, certified. And you'll see they're very scientific in their you know, methods of doing this. So that's just an example of kind of how they do it. who pays for it. And then we talk about here kind of like a contractor. So all of you guys with partial losses at some point are going to have to get somebody, if you can't do it yourself, to fix your house. So we understand that it's really tough. I mean, it was tough in California after the Sonoma County fires, and then Redding, and then, you know, this is just, it's exponential. So you're going to have a hard time. You probably might have to be patient, but you're eventually, no matter what, going to need somebody who's here in town to give you a bid. And some will charge and some won't. It's just sort of what you feel comfortable with, what you can afford, what level of report you want in terms, the top one's just a contractor to do your repairs. Engineers and hygienists, they're across the board, whether the companies are paying. Have anybody asked for hygienists? And have any of you who've asked been denied? Okay, and what did they say? What did they say when they denied you?
Contamination is not the responsibility.
Okay, so let me tell you, contamination. So there's a contamination exclusion in the policy. However, what's happened to your house isn't contamination. What's happened to your house is smoke. Smoke is covered. So go back and tell them, my house has not been contaminated. It has been smoked. And smoke is a covered loss. It's generally accepted that this is covered, and that they should pay for this. And it's sort of like what the law in California is predominant cause. What is the predominant cause of this loss that you have? The predominant cause of your loss in your house is fire, smoke from fire, both covered losses. So they should kick up and pay that. And I imagine there'll be some fights. So keep.
We were told there wasn't enough smoke in our house to justify.
And how did they know that?
Because he came out and he said it just needs spring cleaning.
Yeah, they're not qualified. Adjusters are not qualified to determine whether or not your house has enough smoke damage or less smoke damage. And there's a lot, you know, they'll run their fingers over the top of your door frames and things like that. I mean,
He took a white sheet.
and ask him if he will provide you with a report saying that your house is safe for occupancy from the smoke. That's what I would do. I would say, great, fabulous, I'm glad you're qualified to do this. Write me a written report that my house and my contents are safe from the smoke. And they might change their tune on that because that's ridiculous. Oh, that's such a good idea. Yeah, fish is good. If you cook fish, it'll negate your smoke smell. I don't know where they get some of this stuff, you know, it's crazy. So I know, it's ridiculous. Restoration contractors, we're gonna do questions, pardon?
Could you repeat the original comment?
Oh, he said his adjuster told him to cook fish, and if he cooked fish, then his house would not smell like smoke anymore. So one of the things you could do, this is me.
Who doesn't like smoked salmon?
This is me being a little bit flippant. But one of the really good ways to tell how smoked your house is, and you guys will know this, when you go into your house, I don't know how many of you have spent time there. If you go, you get acclimated to the smoke very quickly, and you don't notice it anymore. And it's literally like the first day I came back and your sinuses are filled with black stuff and all of this. So this is what I recommend people do. Go to your house, get something like a book, a piece of clothing, or something from the smokiest room, okay? Put it in one of those mailing things that has the like plastic lining. So it's it's like a manila envelope, but it's plastic lined. Seal it up, put it in the trunk of your car, go to wherever you're living, let it sit there for a couple days, and then open it up and smell it. Now, if your adjuster doesn't think that your house is smoky, you can mail it to him. Okay? Okay? So, because it's hard. Those adjusters are going from house to house, and the same thing's happening to them. They're like, or they're saying, oh, it's just outside, you know, which is going to be less now that there's been rain. So now that, I mean, the rain's good and bad, but now that there's been rain, it's harder for them to say, oh, this is just ambient smoke smell versus in your house. Sorry, I'm taking too long. Restoration contractors should be paid for by the insurance company. It's part of the cleanup. It's part of, it's so funny that, you know, some of them are pushing back on that because the restoration industry and the insurance companies grew up like this. You know, they're way behind them until everybody needs them, and then they push back. Public adjusters, if you hire an adjuster and attorney, they're going to take money out of your settlement. Some of them might be able to do a little bit better job with your claim. Just up to you to decide. Watch the costs and expenses. Pardon? Yeah. So managing the restoration. The number one thing to keep in mind is this is your house and you're in charge. The law in California lets you choose who works in your house. So if you can act like a sort of a general contractor and coordinate the people, or if you have a contractor who will do that, that's great. A lot of these insurance companies have preferred providers, vendors that they use. Just know that, you know, it's a volume in exchange for discount situation, and a lot of times they'll cut maybe a little bit to keep the insurer happy to stay on their list. And a lot of times there's some manipulation going on behind the scenes, you know, when they get the estimate, and then it comes, you know, goes to the adjuster and they're like, well, take this off and take this off, and you know, they're going to do it to keep them happy. So you need to watch that. Get a copy for yourself at the initial so you know if it changes. And just be, I mean, some of them are perfectly fine. Some of them are perfectly fine, but just be aware. Make sure your contractor shares your goals, that you're like looking at the same end game. Make sure, yeah, some of these preferred, you know, can kind of be not acting in your best interest. You're in control, you get to choose. An important thing here is that most of these companies ask you to sign a couple forms. And so you need to be aware of what you're signing when they ask you, these restoration contractors. The insurance companies have like devised this way to kind of put the relationship, the contractual relationship, to take themselves out of it. Right? So they ask you to sign an authorization to perform services, which is like a work authorization, saying, yes, we can come in and clean. And then they ask, which is okay. Every company that comes in to do work is going to ask you to do that. You just want them before you do that. And then they're going to ask you to sign a authorization for payment, for direct payment to the insurance company. And we're going to do questions at the end. But yeah, if you can avoid it, if you have the means to pay them and then get reimbursement, it's kind of a good way to do it, because you want to be in control. You want to be the person, and so when they send these guys out, you know what happens is, you know, you sign all the forms to get them going. Yeah, that's fine. Well, then if they do something poorly, or, you know, it doesn't work out, then the insurance company's like, well, yeah, you know, you guys have the contract between the two of you. We're not going to really do much about it. And I've seen it happen over and over. So you need to be aware of that. You need to be on top of them and watching them every day. Okay? So be in
Watch
control.
them every day. We don't live there.
Yeah, if you can, go in and look, or at least spot check.
I live in Reno right now.
In Reno, yeah. Send somebody if you can, or make them send you pictures. Make them send you pictures. Yeah, warranties. Some of the insurance companies, if you choose their preferred provider, they'll give you a limited warranty. They're not actually warranting the work. They're making the contractor warrant the work. So if they're in business when you need your warranty, then you're good. You know, warranties are hard no matter what. And this is what I talked about, no legal relationship between the insurer and the contractor. They put it on you even if they found the person for you. So just make sure you like that person before you do it. Make sure that everybody you hire has liability insurance, workers' comp. I mean, that's a given, but it's important. Any warranties they do give them in writing. And then remember, you're entitled to the contractor of your choice. So if you don't like them, if they send somebody out, ask for somebody else or get somebody on your own. Okay, yeah, assume nothing. We're all about get things in writing. Keep a claim diary, you know, and get things in writing. Write it down when you ask for things. If one adjuster tells you something that you're like, that's interesting, I'm not sure, I haven't been told that, or if whatever, write them back. Even if they tell you on the phone, write it back. Email's fine, and say, thank you for talking to me. This is my understanding of the conversation we had. This is my understanding of what's going to happen. Thank you very much, and just go on. So that you have it documented, so they can't tell you, because you guys might end up with, you know, 4 or 5 adjusters, depending on how bad your damage is and how long your claim goes on. So always write it down, because you're going to get different adjusters telling you different things. And remember, a lot of these adjusters are from out of state, so make sure that they're following, you know, all the California laws. Yeah, the one who writes a check has the say. So that's, you know, kind of what I was talking about. If you can be in control, be in control. It's your house and your stuff. Amy? Okay, these are just common sense things to ask the contractors and the different estimates. Are you certified? So the rest of that's what I can't reiterate enough. If you have really heavy smoke damage and they try to clean it incorrectly, they can cause more damage than you had to begin with. So make sure that's mainly for really heavy smoke, but still. Will they give you a detailed estimate? There's consumer rights in California. There's a home improvement contract that they're supposed to use that gives them an estimate of what it's going to be and the schedule of how long it's going to take. You know, are they going to have supervision? Are they going to meet with you? Are they bonded, licensed, insured? How many jobs at once is really important. We've seen a lot of in these big disasters. People are like, they're coming at them like this, and they're like, yes, 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 and then they go and start on the work, and then pretty soon, you know, it's like there's all these people there. So make sure that they have the capacity. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are going to have to wait, and they're going to have to sort of prioritize based upon, you know, who needs to get in their home first, you know, things like that. They're going to have to prioritize. It's going to take longer than usual. Site security is kind of important. And then just back real quick, one of the big things is personal property. Make sure they're handling your personal property properly. That's one of the biggest complaints of restoration companies, is that they damage things, moving it around. You know, they're trying to hurry. So if you have anything that you treasure greatly, take it out and deal with it yourself, and you know, go from there. Sorry, thank you. Okay, so extreme heat, this is more about the outside of your house. I was more talking about the inside. Wildfires are erratic, so you need to look, you know, all around. You guys know this. Look at your stucco, your siding, roof, windows, paint. We talked about the duct working. And then how do I prove my home was impacted by the wildfire? I mean, most of it, the extreme heat damage is pretty easy to see, but little things like I was talking about the window frames, the discoloration, that's technically a damaged window. So some adjusters might overlook that or say it looked like that before. If the smoke came from one direction, and a window on this side of the house looks discolored and a window on this side of the house doesn't look discolored, then show them the difference, you know, something like, if you're able to do it, things like that.
Inside or outside?
Outside. Yeah, outside. And then just who can, so to me, inspecting for heat damage is a little bit easier than smoke. You know, the adjuster, you know, there's no lay person that can come in and say your house is not smoke damaged. You have to have, you know, a professional. But heat damage, you can see it. So you know what your house looked like before. You need to make sure that when they're out doing their estimates, you point to everything. Because these, you know, the fact of the matter is these people are looking at lots of houses and they're trying to, you know, do a good job, but you want to make sure that if you've seen something that might not be readily see it, you know, that they might not see, point it out and show them where you saw damage. So your contractor sometimes will see more. If you need a structural engineer, roofing is good if you had hot embers. It's best to get somebody up on the roof to look at that roof and see. There's a lot of issues with repairability on roofs. Like if you have more than a single layer of like composition shingles, if there's a couple of layers, sometimes they just overlay the shingles on top, and it's hard to replace. So you have to tear off all those layers, which costs more, and it's harder to repair. So those are just things that a roofing contractor will be able to tell you. Carpet people the same, and then if you have a claims adjuster, a public adjuster, or something like that, good insurer adjusters will point things out to you if they're good. I mean, there's good ones and bad ones, just like everybody else. Proper remediation and cleaning methods. There's some disputes on smoke. People feel strongly there's some things that get rid of odors in smoke losses. Thermal fogging. Have you guys heard of thermal fogging is one thing? And then there's a thing called ozone, where they bring in ozone generators. Ozone is one of those kind of polarizing things that people either love it or hate it. I'm in the camp of, I think it's a very effective good. It's an electron grabbing thing where it shoots out ozone, which is a charged foggy stuff, and it grabs the smoke electrons from the air and from the stuff, and it neutralizes them. Now, you can't have your pets and plants and stuff, so some people are like, oh, it's real toxic, but it's one of those things that when the particles grab the other particles, it neutralizes it. It becomes pretty harmless, and it also has a very quick half-life. So it's one of those things where it's very effective at getting rid of smoke, and if you open up your house and in 15 minutes, you're good to go. You don't want to be inside, but I think it's a safe method. You have to kind of judge for yourself.
A friend of mine was talking about they were having that done on their house, and he said that someone told him that they should tent the house when they do it. Is that true?
No.
No.
No. I mean, in the best world, and in some of these really big cases, there's a thing called creating negative pressure inside a house, where you tape everything off, and they have air scrubbers. So you should all probably have air scrubbers in your house, which are the square. They're like a HEPA filter. It's like a big fan, and it pulls the air through and catches this particles in this filter. And it's very effective. I love them. I put one in my house once a year just to freshen it up. And so but they can create negative pressure. They can do all sorts of things, but most of the time that's not necessary unless it's really smoky or you've got really something going on. And then if your family has respiratory illnesses, I will tell you that documenting this, even though it's really none of their business, the insurers, you can use that information to make them sort of pay attention, because if they force somebody back into a house and somebody has respiratory issues because of that, I mean, that's it's a litigation. So it's something that we don't want to happen. Okay, proper restoration. Matching, I want to say a little something about line of sight. There's a code on it for line of sight that if the door closes, the insurer doesn't have to go into that other room. So line of sight is line of sight. If you can see it, they have to match it. If you can close a door, or if it's around a corner, they don't have to match it. And it's in the code, it's pretty clear. And then siding, matching siding, I'd really push back on that. You're entitled to a reasonably uniform appearance is what the code says on that. So I think that if you have a specific type of siding all the way around, you want it to be reasonably uniform. So there's interpretation there, but it's something that is discussable, negotiable. And then cleaning versus replacing. If you get into something where there's a dispute, that's where an expert can say, yes, yay or nay. Somebody who's actually qualified in that type of thing. Sorry, I turned this way naturally. Okay, how do the dollars flow? The scope of loss of the estimate that's created by the insurer. They cut you a check. Most of the time it goes to you and your mortgage company. And that was agreed when you took out your mortgage. A lot of people are surprised about that. But that was agreed upon. Couple of things. One is they can't, and I don't know how bad any of you guys' partials are, they're not legally allowed to keep more than the amount of your loan. So if you have a little baby loan and a medium-sized loss, they might have to kick some back. They don't always do it without asking. And so you have to sign your check, you have to endorse it. And if your restoration, a lot of times they put the restoration company, so they say Service Master and Joe Smith and Wells Fargo. So you have to get the restoration company to sign off. You have to sign it, get it to your mortgage, and disperse funds. Every once in a while, if you have an authorization to pay direct, sometimes they'll pay the restoration companies, without doing some of that, but it's hit and miss. They put if it goes and you have a long term, you've got to call your mortgage company, ask them how they're going to handle it. Every mortgage company is different, so you're going to get different responses. They're going to hold it basically, and if you have a big job, they're going to meter it out like a third, and don't pay people until you're satisfied. And also, just you guys know this, don't give huge deposits up front to contractors you don't know. Little bits at a time. Resolving disputes. If your insurance company doesn't accept your independent report, you write to them and you ask them specifically why they won't accept your report. And not just, we don't accept your report. They need to tell you why. Like, this person was unlicensed or not qualified, the wrong expert. They need to tell you more about, they can't just say no. So I know that with all types of insurance things, they can't just say no. They have to tell you why. And if there's a policy language involved, they need to give you that policy language, okay? Restoration company that the insurer brought in did shoddy work and still wants to get paid. I can't even tell you how often that happens, where they send in a company, the company does work, the homeowner calls the adjuster and says, hey, my house is still wet, my house is still smoky, whatever, and they've already been paid. They pay them really weirdly quickly. I guess it's part of their agreement, but you need to, don't sign the authorization to pay until you're happy with the work, if they sent somebody out, okay? And they also should be asking you for a certificate of satisfaction. Every company should give you like a little, like, did you like this lecture type of thing, where you just check a few things. How was our service? It's part of most of the insurance programs. It's required. So you should be, and so they should be asking for that at the same time as the authorization to pay. Do not sign the authorization to pay until you're happy. And then when should I get the California Department of Insurance involved? Joel's going to talk about that a little bit more, but if you're stuck, they're a very good resource. I'll let him do that. This is the idea of something to look at. If the restoration, this is just an example of them. They should never be setting dirty contents on your white or cream colored chairs type of thing. So you should go in and it should look professional and it should look well done. And then I'm going to turn this back over to Amy. Thank you. And we'll do questions in just like 5 minutes.
Okay, and while I was helping advance the slides, I also was reaching out to some of the industrial hygienists that we have worked with in other states, to let them know that there seems to be quite the shortage up here, and to see if we can help bring some other names into the area. We can try, right? Okay, so Sandy just gave you a very strong overview of data points, decision points. Obviously, the big elephant in the room here is who's going to help you. What professionals are you going to be able to rely on, and that's obviously a work in progress. So we're here to say stand up and take charge, which obviously you're on the road to doing that just by showing up here and getting informed. We've already talked a little bit about what we suggest your approach be in terms of putting things in writing, being the squeaky wheel, but also being as professional as you can in your communications with the insurance company. And by that, I mean, trying to keep as much emotion out of it as you can, which I know is very, very hard in this situation. But the more business-like you can be in dealing with an adjuster in terms of saying, these are my expectations, and this is what has happened, and this is what I need to have happen. Creating that paper trail is so important in terms of trying to get the outcome that you need. If you don't like a contractor, don't contract from a vendor, don't sign it. Obviously, require follow-up and progress meetings. If you don't like the quality of the work, don't make a final payment until the dispute is resolved. Obviously, that's where you're the one making the payments. If the insurance company is making the payments out of your policy benefits, you only have so much leverage there. But hopefully, none of you are going to get to the point where your limits get used up. I mean, that would be in the very extreme situation of a nearly total loss. So for most of you, you should have plenty of policy limits available to pay for the work. It's just a question of making sure that those dollars get spent on work that you feel comfortable with. I'm sorry, next, how do I speak up? Be as strong as possible, be politely assertive, be educated and empowered. That's what you're doing right now. Ask questions. That's what you're about to do. Keep a clean diary. That's something we recommend very strongly. I see a lot of you have notebooks that you're already using. We do have some journals. If you would like one of the, if you don't have access to a blank notebook, because any notebook will do, you can get at the next workshop that we have up here. We'll be giving them out again. Unwilling to be shortchanged and proactive. And lest anyone think, oh, there's something magical about the UP diary. There's nothing magical about it. It's basically just a notebook that's divided into 3 sections and it has a business card holder. So, you know, again, our recommendation is that to keep organized with all these moving parts, that you keep a running journal. And I want to say, we did see people, I see a lot of you guys taking pictures, and that's fine. We will be uploading the PowerPoint from tonight to our website, uphelp.org/camp. That'll take you to the Campfire Library. You scroll all the way down the page and you will find it along with the live stream that we're trying to do here. Okay, what are your options for resolving disputes with an adjuster or with your insurance company? Negotiating with that adjuster, their superiors and upper management, filing a complaint with the Department of Insurance. Joel's going to explain that. Hiring a public adjuster if you feel like the documentation that you pulled together on your own wasn't cutting it, and your negotiating skills, you just don't have the energy to go toe-to-toe, then you can consider that. There's a process called appraisal that is unique to insurance. It's different from a real estate appraisal, which is just basically what's the value of this. An insurance appraisal is a dispute resolution process. It's supposed to be faster and cheaper than a lawsuit or an arbitration, and it is something that usually will get invoked, meaning either you or the insurance company says, okay, we are not on the same page here about the cost of this repair or the scope of the work that has to be done. And we've tried face-to-face meetings, we tried doing a complaint with the department or whatever means you tried, and the insurer is digging in their heels and you feel like this is an important dispute that needs to get resolved, then you can invoke appraisal, but you need professional help to do it. We have a lot of information on our website about appraisal. You pick your appraiser, the insurer picks theirs, the two of them pick an umpire, and there's an informal process that goes on where they look at the evidence, they look at the reports, they look at the estimates, and then the umpire says the policyholder's right or the insurance company's right, or they split the baby. You can hire a lawyer, but again, for probably every single person in this room, hiring a lawyer by the hour is rarely going to pencil out for you, unless it's just a matter of paying somebody to write a letter or two. You're going to want to hire a lawyer on contingency, which means that they will get paid a percentage of what they recover for you. So they will bet on the come, meaning they'll work for you, and they will, a good one will advance costs as well. And then you don't pay them unless they get money for you, and then they get paid a cut of it. And again, you're only going to get a good lawyer to work on contingency if there's a lot of money in dispute. So if you have a $10,000 dispute, you're not going to get a good contingency fee lawyer to represent you unless a whole bunch of your neighbors are having a very similar dispute with the same insurance company, in which case maybe they'd bundle you. But generally, for the smaller dollar disputes, it's pretty hard to find a good lawyer. There are legal aid lawyers up here that are helping people, but typically their expertise is going to be in things like landlord-tenant, wills and trusts, that kind of thing. Okay, our website has an amazing library. It's very deep. There's a lot of information on our website. We've been curating it for 27 years. So there it is. Use the search box to find what you need. If the way we've designed it isn't working for you to find what you need, we are so grateful to have the opportunity to be useful to you, and we look forward to hearing your questions and concerns and giving you the best guidance we can going forward. So thank you for your time. We're going to wrap up from our portion, and we're going to have Joel Loucher come and give you an explanation. If you want to go to the next slide, I think it's his slide. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, Joel, come on up. So Joel's agency is a statewide agency. The Department of Insurance has the job of regulating the insurance industry and also serving consumers. So they make sure the insurance companies are behaving properly and they help consumers.
I can say that.
And then, and here you go.
There I am. Hello, everybody. You are in the figurative home stretch, and you'll be in the literal home stretch in just a few minutes. So I'm with the Department of Insurance. We have offices Sacramento, LA, and San Francisco, and I'm working the San Francisco office. But we have many people who work handling consumer complaints all day long. That is their job. They do that it's free to the consumer. So I came up here. I don't have anywhere near the wealth of knowledge on these particulars that you just heard tonight from Amy and Sandy. A lot of the reason I came up here, not only to just tout the Department of Insurance, but to show our support for United policyholders. We very much appreciate that they're here for you like this, give out this kind of information. And I stood in the back and learned a whole lot myself tonight. And it is a tough spot, to anytime a person has a claim, when there are this many claims in one community, it can be overwhelming for the insurer. But your policy is the same, whether there's one claim or 1,000 claims going on. So you're entitled to the benefits of that policy, no matter what the other circumstances are for the insurer, right? You have your own circumstances. And so you're entitled to be treated fairly and in accordance with the contract and in accordance with the law. And so I suggest everybody pursue that, but it does take patience, right? You do have to realize there is a reality here of lots of claims at once. And so it is a time where you have to be patient, but also persevere and keep pushing in a diplomatic way with your adjuster and giving them bite-sized questions, 3 questions, not 20, and get those and then ask more, or get 2 of the answers and add the 3rd one you didn't get to your next set of 3. So, but, just keep pursuing it. But the department is also there for you. We have an 800 number, 800-927-4357, 800-927-4357. So you can call someone Monday through Friday. Again, it's free. If it turns out you want to file a complaint, you can do that online. The department is at insurance.ca.gov. A lot of the things that Amy talked about, fair claims regs, statutes, for example, the smoke limitation that some companies have, that's just an illegal limitation based on a statute in law. So the company can't have that. It's not an option. So those are things, if the company is using that particular thing, a violation of a law, then you contact the department if they won't take care of it themselves. As Sandy mentioned, sometimes they might back down when you just mentioned that you're aware they can't have a smoke limitation. Smoke and fire are one peril in our California fire policy. So please feel free to call the department. I hope, you know, these people that are up here, I hope you'll remember them, you know, when you move forward. Insurance is meant to be a path forward for you. You've suffered a loss, and fortunately for, I assume, everybody in the room, you have insurance. A lot of people do not, and so they're in a much tougher boat, right? They've just lost whatever they've lost. You at least took, you know, the impetus to have a product to help you out, and so this is when, you know, the insurer has to kind of show their mettle and honor that contract that they sold you. But be patient and persevere. And I think you're hearing tonight, you kind of have to be your best self. And that means patient with each other, put together your documentation. You've got to be your own manager here, but do it calmly. You know, nobody's expected to be a superhero all of a sudden. You're balancing a lot of other things in life. So just calmly go about this, but proving your case is what you need to do with a claim. And, you know, when you're doing that and the company's denying or not responding to your claim, contact the department, and we're there to help you. And that's it.
Thank you, Joel. And again, the RFA process.
Thank you.
Sure. All of us, and all of you. Yeah, the RFA, the request for assistance form, is really easy to fill out, and you can do it online. You can call them. They do make it easy, and they are responsive. Okay, so we don't have a microphone. We're going to do our best here to make sure that when somebody asks a question, we'll restate it.
Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start here.
Well, thank you very much.
Try to talk as loud as you can so everybody
Yeah,
can
I
hear.
have one question. We had minor damage on 2 of our rentals, and they came to look at the rentals, and because it was minor damage, they figure we can get them fixed up from the damage on the rentals within about a month. They're saying that they will only cover loss of rent for that time period, even though no one can live in the houses because of PID and for a while not having power. They say that they did not insure infrastructure off of the parcel, so therefore they would not pay loss of rent.
So this is a case where reading your policies differ, sorry.
No.
Policies differ, okay? So some policies, State Farm policy, for example, says when a loss insured causes the residence premises to become uninhabitable, we will pay for your additional living expense, your increased cost. Some policies, the farmer's policy actually says that, and I don't know that one by heart, but it says, you know, we will pay for if an insured loss occurs to the insured property. So there's differences in that policy language. So you need to go to your policy and read your additional living expense coverage. My interpretation is that if it says, like the State Farm policy, if a loss insured, fire is insured, causes the residence premises, your home, to become uninhabitable, the fire means you have no power or water, then it's covered. That's my position on that. This is going to be a huge sticking point in the next month. One of the things you can do first is talk to them about how hard it is to get a contractor, and tell them, hey, find me a local contractor who can come out and do the work, because that's going to buy you some time. So finding a contractor to do the work is going to buy you some time, and then you need to look at your policy language, and it might be a case where you need to go, and if they're If it looks to you like it says, loss insured, uninhabitable, then you might need to consult with a lawyer. If they kick back. I hate to say that, but I think it's true.
And there were 2 points I want to emphasize that Sandy just made when she said, tell them that the reasons why you feel that their position is unreasonable, but then remember that and do it in writing. But then also, insurers often or the adjusters are trained not to take the policyholder's word for things. They like to get independent opinions. So, for example, getting a local realtor to give you a letter saying, no one's going to rent a place where they don't feel like they can be sure that it's safe to live in. Even if that person is themselves not a scientific person, just the fact that it's not you,
Or a contractor
can
saying,
bolster your.
I can do the work, but I can't get to yours until X time, right?
I think they're going to back down eventually. I think they're using it as a thing. I think they're going to back down eventually. There's some kind of decent case law that's happened that's kind of dealt with, and not in this state, but dealt with like extringent losses that are not necessarily direct losses, and they've come down in the policyholder's favor. So it could take a little pressure, but in the meantime, delay them with the contractor.
And always
Because
call
you're
the
gonna have a hard
department. Number 2 is right back here.
Is email the same as writing?
Yes.
All right, and number 3.
We've been told that the damage to our roof, they can repair visible damage. 2 different roofing contractors come in and say, if you only repair visible damage by patching, you have harmed the integrity of the roof. And they recommend replacing the whole thing.
And if you have that recommendation, if you can get them to put it in writing, and you've given that to the insurance company.
We got the second estimate that said there's more damage than you think, and this will hurt the integrity, yes.
Okay.
But they've tried that, and they're holding to their no. All the policy systems will make it look, will repair what is visible,
Right.
but they cannot match what's there.
Right, and
Well,
this
they
is
have
a
to
national, this is sort of a national fight that's been going on between property owners and insurance companies with regard to roofs. Insurance companies have been getting very creative in some of the exclusions that they have been putting in their policies because they feel like they've been getting asked to give people new roofs where there was only a portion damaged. And if you've got an expert telling you that it's not just an aesthetic issue, it's a safety issue, that the roof there's some possibility that the roof could fail and somebody could be injured.
That's the issue they're saying.
And also, you're still entitled to a reasonably uniform appearance. So that's a perfect one that if they persist, the Department of Insurance should be able to, Joel, right? That's a good one for them to work on?
Yeah.
Reasonably
Reasonably is a
Yeah.
word, right? That has some, Amy said subjectivity early in this, and we get into some of that here.
Can I
Yeah,
add
go
to
ahead.
that?
You're the same couple, you're still your question.
The roof was a 40-year roof. We had 10 years on that roof.
That's
So we are
helpful.
not going to get 30 years out of a patched roof, right?
Right.
Just say.
And it's also not a
That's long.
40-year roof that you're asking them to give you a new roof for. You have a long life left on your roof.
Right.
So that makes it not necessarily should be a meaningful point, but it can be a helpful one.
And I want, one thing that we didn't cover in the slides, but that you'll find in our samples
Number
and
6.
examples section of our library is a letter from Anderson Window that a policyholder got, or that says basically, if our product has been exposed to temperatures in excess of X temperature, this warranty is voided. That kind of a document, like if you could get it from the roofing company that says that again, it's just
That's
helpful to have, and of course something like that you don't have to pay for. To say, okay, does this void the warranty? That can be additional ammunition for you.
Okay, that's number 4 and then 5.
We feel our insurance company is lowballing us because the value of our home, they gauged a lot of stuff off the value of our home. my home was built in the 60s. My garage was totally gone. Was built in 08. It was like 50 years difference. And so what they're doing is, because of the value of our house, they're only giving me $22,000 to rebuild a 3-car garage with today's price.
Is that your limit for other structures? Yeah.
10%.
You know, they said because our house, we're not rich people,
We didn't
okay?
hear
Our
the
house is only worth 200,000, and he had a 2-car garage with a shop. Now they want to give you a little itty bitty 2-car garage, and if you don't like it, shove it up your butt.
Well, and their question was they're not getting enough, big enough offer for their garage structure. And this is one of the things a lot of you might come across. This is very common. I've heard it from a lot of people, is that your house is safe, but your outbuildings all burned. It's very common for your outbuildings to be insured for 10% of your coverage A, which is your dwelling. So it's kind of an automatic a thing. And so unless you have gone to them before this happened and said, hey, I have this fancy garage that's worth, whatever. So in the best world, when you built your garage in 08, you should have gone to the insurer and
We
said,
didn't do it. The other person who owned the house did it. They knew when we got the house that this was a newer
Yeah.
garage, and they're basically saying we're screwed.
it's an underinsurance issue. It's the same as the people who have lost their whole houses and they're like, well, you saw my house and it was clearly not worth $200,000, but that's a different fight. It's a
Separate
different fight.
building.
So what do we do?
You're gonna have to go to a lawyer.
Is the garage separate from the house?
Yes.
But there's nothing that attaches them, a fence, a curb, nothing?
No, it's not attached to it. It was built, it was a nice garage. It was man cave.
Right.
Anybody would like to, any man here would have loved it.
And
They got
they
burned
send
and
out
they-
an inspector when they insured your home initially, do you remember?
I don't know. We trusted them. Nevin Witt Insurance Company. We trusted them. They said CIG was good. CIG turns out to be a pain in the butt.
Okay. Well,
And I'm honest about that.
2 questions on this topic, if I may, just to follow up. Number one is electrical connection, is that considered connected to that house?
And most of the times it says no. Usually your policy will line that out. Some of them say a structure that is attached by only a utility line is not considered attached.
But if it doesn't say that, you
Yes,
could
you
certainly
gotta look at
make
your
the
policy.
argument.
Should be.
Yeah.
And then, extended replacement cost coverage. How does that not apply to additional structures?
Well, usually the policy, the typical thing is that the extended replacement only applies to the dwelling coverage, and if the other structure's coverage doesn't have its own separate dollar amount and is only a percentage of the dwelling, then you could at least apply the extended replacement on the dwelling and then recalculate what the other structure's coverage is. So
Yeah,
that's
and
a
you have
good
to look
point.
in your policy.
Right.
It's different. Most of the time it doesn't, but sometimes it does.
Okay, so we had one here.
Yeah.
Then I had 3 over there. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll get to 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
My
Yes.
concern, we have a home, we had a house burned beside us, another one on this side and one across the street. Our house is standing, had some damage. But the toxins and all the stuff that's there now, and it's wet, which is good, and they're gonna start coming in, we hope, and can come in and start taking the debris away. Now, as it starts to warm up, February, sometimes it's warm here, March, April, now May, and some of these stuff's gonna be really dusty. How do we make sure we can check, make sure those toxins and stuff don't leach into our home and the dust?
Well, for one thing, if you're friendly with your neighbors, you can encourage them to participate either in the coordinated debris removal or hurry up and get, in a nice way, obviously.
Well,
You can't really ask somebody who's lost their home to hurry up, but you can, encourage them not to put off that decision. Because I think, the county is going to be moving as quickly as they can to get everyone's lots cleared, and that's why they have that deadline. So there's that.
The other thing is that the standard protocol for debris removal requires wetting it. So dust control,
Requires what?
wetting,
Wetting.
wetting it. So dust control measures, if you read the contracts, dust control measures are supposed to be put in. So they're pretty aware of that situation, and they're not supposed to. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but they're supposed to wet it down before, I mean, you're still gonna get a little from the going back and forth, but, so.
Okay, so, right there. Yeah.
When we were given the estimate by our insurance adjuster, and it was a list of remedies for each room in the house. I mean, he measured the place, and then in it is listed 2 cleaning technicians and clean and deodorize the house. In that email, he also asked then for the hygienist to come in and test. And to me, it seemed like he has the remedy before he's even tested. We asked him what he's testing for. He said smoke, soot, and ash. And we started thinking he's testing for just trivial things. We got our own laboratory to come in and test, and now they're still wanting to bring in their own laboratory as well. So how do we deal with that? It looks like an impending conflict, but is it common for them on the estimate to list the remedy even before testing is done?
Yeah, I think sometimes they would like to see if their least measure would go in and take care of things, but it's good that they are then testing to see if it worked. If they do a thorough job on the test, then you're good either way, whether they have done it before or after, right? You want to have a test after something's done at the company's behest, but
It's the cart before the horse. You're right
Yeah.
on that. But some of them just do it. They're trying to get you a payment up front to get you sort of going, and sort of saying, we know you're going to need to do this, so here's this. This is the minimum. Your hygienist might come in later and say, oh no, you need to add this to this, so then you can add on. But they're just trying to get you a payment.
And also with the benzene situation in Paradise. Now they've seen the benzene in the water, and I understand in the Santa Rosa area, they're still trying to get it out of the water system.
I think they did get it out of the water system.
No, they're not.
I mean, again, this is one of these hot button things where it depends.
The insurers aren't going to touch the benzene. That's not their issue.
It's
That's
not
the
going
long
to
and
be
short. You're never going to get that.
Not an issue to claim the house is unlivable because of
Well,
that.
that's a different issue. That's a different issue. Yes, you can say, look, it's still uninhabitable because we don't have water. And that's one of the things. Read your policy and see what your policy says triggers additional living expenses.
I was telling you that at the meetings that we have been to in the Santa Rosa area, we've heard repeatedly that the water has been testing okay.
No, I mean in Paradise.
Oh, in Paradise. I was talking about.
Board meeting last night.
Oh, no, I was talking about
Paradise.
Sonoma.
Sonoma,
I'm sorry.
Sonoma's
I'm sorry.
They had the same problem
They
in
had
Sonoma
the same
County of
problem.
Fountain Grove, and they were able to clean it much faster than they
Yeah.
thought. So it will get done at some point.
Yeah, and they said they have like 700 and some odd miles of pipeline
To
that
relay.
needs to be tested, possibly replaced. But the good thing, I asked this question specifically last night at their board meeting. I said, what is the highest level of benzene that has been a test result that has come back? And from what the test that they have submitted, 1.1 parts per billion. So I thought that was
On the property owner's side, not on their side, so it is a good thing.
Right, it's very low, very low. There was one independent property that a property owner submitted, and I'm assuming it's from their side of the property, the pipes after the meter, that actually came back at 15 parts per billion. Huge discrepancy. Huge discrepancy. But as far as what PID has done,
Yeah.
So let's just stay on it. Yeah, let's stay on the
Right,
insurance a little bit.
there.
Sorry about that, just because we're going to be leaving.
So I had the AAA independent adjuster, they come out and did their report. AAA inadvertently showed me the draft report, and the coverages or what the initial inspection called for is different when I got than when I got when I got from the insurance. Am I entitled to the report from their initial?
I would send it back and say, I'm sorry, I have 2 reports and I'm not
I
sure
never
what.
got it, they inadvertently showed it to me. on their computer when I was at the AAA office in Chico.
Okay, so the law is that you have the right to request and get copies of all the documents that are not attorney-client protected in your file, which of course there should not be any attorney involved at this stage I can imagine them coming back and saying, well, that was a draft. The statute doesn't say drafts aren't included. But you have to, this is one of those rights that you have to push back on because no other state gives you that right. If you're
And they hate
outside of
giving it up.
litigation, they
They
hate
have to.
giving
For instance,
it
the
up.
report called for replacement of my roof, and now they're saying we're not clean.
Right. And again, not to make people paranoid, but there's been lots of litigation and in the media, there's been exposure of, insurers will hire one company to do a whole bunch of reports, and then they find that they did some cookie cutter reports and they didn't actually, or maybe some of the reports got changed. So again, these are all reasons why, you want to trust but verify. You want to get second opinions.
Yeah, the more important piece here is whether or not the roof actually needs to be replaced.
Right.
And
Good
so,
point, good point.
And so I think if we need to just stick with the case regardless of what, they may say, well, the manager saw that or a senior adjuster saw it and they said, no, you got it all wrong or something.
I'll call it
But-
retrofit windows versus.
So the point is to document why you need a roof. Same issue with, from a contractor telling you, from a warranty, from whatever purpose, and then, you can go to the Department of Insurance if you're still having a dispute, right? So you've kind of just been assisted by a little glimpse into their decision-making, but the bottom line is the final decision and making sure it's the right one. So come to us if
Lots
you,
of things like that throughout. that are question.
Regarding
So
the
please-
benzene, what is the safe level?
Yeah,
We
that's
can't
not-
answer
We're
that.
not-
Yeah,
yeah,
we want to stick to insurance.
Benzene water over the
so
years.
we don't have time for the.
We can't-
We don't know.
So, I guess
Sorry,
part of it was
because
answered by, him here, but I was running into the same problem with my third-party adjuster going around taking photos and stuff. They wouldn't, walk on my roof or go in my attic or under my home. I actually had to crawl under there and do it myself and take a photo with her camera. I also took photos and pointed certain things out for them to pay attention to and had them write them down. Then they didn't show up on the report when I got it back, and I requested that, just like it says online, for that, and they told me that I was not entitled to rough drafts, and I made it very clear that I was.
Yeah.
My brother, doing the same thing on the same property, was told he needed a court order to get.
So not true.
I know,
it's
but
ironic
so
because
is
they have
that
to send it
what I'm
out.
getting at? Is that something that we should file a complaint about with insurance, if more pushback isn't
Yeah.
happening, or when do we file the complaint, and what
You
is
can file it now. So you can go online, you can file it that way, you can call the 800 number and start through that process. But I can tell you the departments had this complaint about the claims file and what a company claims is the claims file, is the kind of
Well, they
the
left
final.
things out. I know they left them out because I was right there specific.
Right.
And it's very clear, and then some
Right.
photos aren't there that I know were taken.
Yeah,
The other
the companies are kind of, they are determining what goes in a claims file, and not every note they've taken is
Yeah.
going in the claims file apparently.
Yeah.
But the point again is about not ignoring the components of loss that you have. So claim file aside, if you have damage, focus on that and come to us and say, I pointed these out. Here are the issues with these, subfloor or wherever it is you're underneath your home.
Well, it all
Point
leads
those
up
out.
to inadequate measuring. Once I went back and double checked measurements, they shaved 6 inches here, 8 inches here, made my doorways 3 inches taller. Everything, once I started going through it and drew up my whole house again. Like, okay, they're hiding something.
So you're doing a good job of managing your own claim by identifying what your loss is. And now you just have to convince them of that.
Yeah.
And so that might involve getting the department.
Yeah, and with the show me thing that you guys always talk about, I tried that one and it did not go over so hot.
They're required.
Conversation was about fencing that was detached, and it's like hog fencing. And they say they classify that as an additional structure, or.
Yes.
Fencing typically is other
Fencing.
And
structures.
so I asked him where they could show me that, and his response was, you need to read your claim carefully. And I said, I did. It's not listed in there anywhere. It says anything that I can pick up and leave with at any time when I
Personal
want to is
property.
considered personal property, which none of this is concreted, none of it is considered permanent.
Yeah, so just,
is
they're
there
required
something
to
where
show.
they need to-
Yeah, they're required, when they write a denial letter, they're required to do a few things. They're required to tell you specifically what they're denying, the reason for the denial, cite the policy language, and cite the Department of Insurance if you believe your claim has
So kind
been.
of bait him into that more in the email form. 'Cause
Yeah.
He did it verbally over the phone with me, and I kind of got frustrated. 'cause
No,
we
he
went
needs
into
to send it to you in
questions.
writing.
Okay.
Yeah, send it to you in writing. We're
So
gonna
we
do
have
this, we're gonna do just a couple more, because
Wait,
we gotta
boom,
get on the
boom,
road.
boom, 3 here, so I'll do
I'll be
this.
real quick.
Yeah.
We have 3 years, 115,000 toward loss of living expenses type thing. Our insurance agent, our adjuster said that we, as soon as our house is livable, it doesn't matter about the hazmat around, it doesn't matter about the water, benzene, we have to move in, they're gonna cut the money.
Right.
And do I have any leg to stand on there?
So this is a good question because it's coming up all over the place that that people are being told by their adjusters basically quit lollygagging and move back in and or else we're going to cut you off on your ALE. And I think the what you can do in that situation if you feel that your place has not been properly inspected and you have reason to not to know that it may not be rehabitable yet, you've got to give them that evidence in writing and say, I'm not, I want to get home as quickly as I can. I just don't want to impair my health by doing that.
Well, I have young kids that are gonna mess around in the
So
neighbors.
then you want to.
That's not gonna get you, I'm just gonna cut in here.
Yeah.
The neighboring thing isn't gonna ever fly. They're only concerned with your house. You've got to really stick with your house. So your argument about the neighbor's property is unsafe is not insurable. But, and the benzene thing, I think that's an insurability because that affects your house.
Right.
But the hazmat of the, sorry.
No, it's fine.
The hazmat of the surrounding properties is never gonna, and it's best to like focus on the fights you might be able to win.
Okay.
And one here,
And then we got this, and then we're gonna have to
and then
stop.
one more, and then,
We'll get you. We'll get you in a minute.
okay, you're next.
We lost power in our home, and when power was restored, a little screw on the bottom of the toilet came loose or something. I don't know what happened, but anyway, the toilet leaked. And so when we weren't able to live in the house yet, but when we came back, there was water all over the floor, on the bedroom below where the toilet was, and water damage, had to pull out sheetrock and carpeting. And we asked the insurance company if they would cover that because it was not that way before the fire, and they said that it was a separate event.
No.
And
It's not. I mean, this is, a lawyer will tell you that if but for the fire, she's going to disagree, but I'm going to tell you what I would tell you.
It's covered in
You came to see me. But for the fire, the power wouldn't have gone off. But for the power going off, the leak wouldn't have happened with the sudden it going back on, and that chain of causation wasn't interrupted. There wasn't some period of time that would break that chain, and so in my opinion, that was proximately caused by the fire, and it's included. But Sandy was a claim adjuster, so it sounds like she might have a different view.
I just think you're gonna have a hard time relating the power going off to the toilet breaking out. And that's the part that
Change in
disconnects.
temperature.
But that is also typically a covered loss.
It is a covered loss.
If it's a
covered.
water damage loss, then
It's separate.
the worst case scenario
You'd have to pay
is you pay the
Yeah.
deductible again, right?
and that is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But I had a long conversation and very reasonable conversation with the adjuster when he came out. And I used that word that I learned, proximate cause.
Right.
And he explained to me that if the pipes to the house had been burned and that's what made the toilet leak, then it could be fire related, but because it had to do with the power company, and he felt like it was too many steps removed to be related.
It's a gray area.
I mean, again, I think if you could get, if you had somebody other than you to say that clearly this leak resulted from the power being turned back on
Not from
and.
power, from water. Don't use power when you're referring to your plumbing and your toilet.
Yeah,
Tell
say
them
the
because
water.
The water was shut off and then the temperature